The U.S.-led coalition says it has doubled military advisors in Iraq as the Iraqi security forces push to retake the Daesh stronghold of Mosul. U.S. military spokesman Colonel John Dorrian says that there are now about 450 coalition advisors in Iraq. In a report to the Pentagon, Dorrian said the reinforcements are part of a series of measures taken to accelerate the advance of the Iraqi security forces. According to the U.S., the advisors are not involved in direct combat and provide specialized support such as the analysis of intelligence. However, American military forces carry out air and artillery strikes in Iraq and Syria, claiming to be fighting against Daesh. Many civilians have fallen victim to such strikes. Let's bring in Tony Gosling. He's an investigative journalist who joins us from Bristol. So if you were to assess what these so-called military advisors are doing, U.S. military advisors there in Iraq, do you think that they are contributing to the elimination of Daesh, which then puts into question why hasn't that happened to the degree that it should have when they started, the U.S. and its coalition, with their air power against the Daesh terrorists?
Okay, that's quite a long question, but look, to cut it short, I'd say the major problem with what's happening in Mosul is that we're not getting the same sort of coverage for the carnage that's going on there. Of course, this kind of city street fighting, you get a tremendous number of casualties, not to mention the fact that you've got a civilian population who are trying to coexist in the middle of a war zone. At the moment, we've got 2,000 people a day fleeing Mosul, trying to get out of that war zone, you know, their home. And the UN reported just around about Christmas time that we've had 7,000 civilians killed and 12,000 wounded in Iraq. We're not really getting hardly any of this kind of covered by the Western media, although when it came to Aleppo, it was almost like every inch of ground that was fought over was reported about, and every single casualty was talked about as, you know, a terrible thing. The reason being, of course, that these are proxy wars that are being fought in both Syria and Iraq, really, with Aleppo, the Russians, superpower, backing up the Syrian Arab army there, and the Iraqi army being backed in Mosul by the United States, mainly by NATO, effectively. So what's been happening for many years over in the Middle East, with the superpowers vying for control over oil and power, and an important strategic area in the world, is now being seen to sort of be on the ground, the American troops on the ground. Also worth saying, these advisors, it's well worth understanding that the special forces on all sides by the superpowers are off the books. That is to say, they're not really talked about in the press, they're not supposed to officially be there, and also that they don't get any kind of real democratic oversight by the people we elect, by the parliaments, the congresses and that sort of thing. There's no proper oversight of what they do. The military just do what they want with them.
Who are they advising?
Well, they are advising the Iraqis, but in a way, the Americans have the upper hand because they have much better intelligence. Of course, they've got satellite intelligence, so they're watching everything as it's moving on the ground. They've got all sorts of other systems that they can monitor what's going on. For example, some of the equipment has RFID chips in it, and so they can monitor those, even though the Daesh, ISIS people don't realize that they're being monitored. The Americans can follow those. Not many people realize that they can be followed from satellite too. So they've got a massive amount of intelligence. They don't give away much about what they do know, but in a way it would be very difficult for the Iraqis on their own to fight in Mosul without the American help. And I think it's pretty clear, every time you see more assistance going, the people really behind this are CENTCOM. People don't understand in the West that CENTCOM is a major force for the United States to manage the Middle East. It's based in Florida, I believe, but it is where, for example, President Trump's new Secretary of State was the former head of CENTCOM. And so that's where these operations are being conducted from. And effectively, the Iraqis aren't really in charge of the operation, the Americans are. And the Iraq has now, since the 2003 invasion, become effectively a client state of the United States. Also, don't forget, there is a Oded Yinon plan playing out. This suits the Israelis who want to have control of the greater Israel, which Syria and Iraq are in the way of. And this operation is serving the interests of the Israelis to have fighting going on and many civilian deaths and casualties. And the Israelis will be looking in the future to move into that part of the world.
Thank you for that. Tony Gosling, investigative journalist, talking to us there from Bristol. Thank you.